What does AI mean to you?
Well, I work in Silicon Valley, actually.
How will it change your world?
I work in big data systems, and at least the company that I work for, we make the computational platform that AI and machine learning runs on. My job is to essentially automate other people's jobs, but at some point, I might automate my own job away, and we're already starting to see some of those effects. Like my mom, she was forced to go into early retirement because her job at the hospital was replaced by a robot, essentially. But I guess I'm mostly concerned about my son. Because the more I work in this field, the more concerned I get. The more concerned I get.
Hey guys.
Hey, how's it going?
I stayed so late. We gotta figure out what's happening.
So we've been seeing that there's something wrong with the infrastructure here, and from what I see on the charts on the cluster, from what I see on the charts on the cluster,
not an infrastructure problem.
can I completely wrong with the disk usage and the memory usage?
No, so I looked at the logs, right? I figured out that the cluster
Why did we have so many problems? Why can't my team work together? Why am I wasting my life here? That night was a breaking point for me. I needed to escape.
这个小家伙，要不要给你找一个不出声的玩具去？走。
I met the trekking company in Tbilisi, in the Republic of Georgia. After a nerve-wracking ride in an old Soviet-style flatbed with absolutely nothing to hang on to, my journey officially began in a shepherd's hut at the edge of Samogrelo National Park. The guide told me that it was too late in the year, and we may run into inclement weather in the mountains. As a completely green trekker, I was very anxious about the 70 kilometers of mountainous passage that lay ahead. The only thing that distracted me from my worries was the aroma of the rustic shepherd's breakfast, simmering on the small stove.
How do you say cheese in Georgian?
Aveli.
And potato is kartopi.
In the age of processed foods, it was rare for me to have something so fresh and so unique. Our group consisted of 10 people from all over the world in all walks of life. Trekkers of varying degrees of experience, guides from Tbilisi, and local nomads who only spoke Megrelian. Nick was the lead guide who served in the Soviet Red Army for years as a Mountain Corps instructor. He was a fountain of knowledge about the Caucasus. Nita and Helen were experienced trekkers and came well prepared. Sholta was a Georgian grad student studying microbiology. He was soft-spoken and knew a lot about the surrounding flora and fauna. I've never seen so many different shades of green, but it immediately made me breathe deep and feel relaxed. This is no accident. 99.5% of human evolution is about the need to survive in a natural environment dominated by green. So our eyes are specifically adapted to be able to distinguish hundreds of shades of greens. A veteran trekker, Jackson told me to keep focusing on breathing and to go at my own pace. I would ignore this sage advice to my own detriment. Soon, I found myself thoroughly exhausted and incredibly thankful that Irakli was far ahead and already made camp.
All the surveillance. Will he have any secrets left, or will everything, all of his dirty laundry, be aired out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat? I'm very afraid. Will he have a job? With all this automation going on.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why I'm here. He's just 8 months old. Will he have any privacy left? What's the world going to be like for him?
Whoa. 真棒。这个是欧洲第一高峰，厄尔布鲁什。海拔呢应该是我记得应该是5642米。哇！但是它是在俄罗斯境内，不在格鲁吉亚境内。
欧洲第一高峰，我一直以为是在瑞士什么地方呢？
阿尔卑斯山是吧？
对对对。
Suddenly, I looked up, and the scenery changed completely. We were above the tree line. Rocks littered the mountainside, like an army waiting in ambush. Fog hit the cliff beside my feet, and the strong wind made me fall towards it with every step. As I struggled to find my way, my anxieties about AI returned, whispering like a ghost. AI is now being applied everywhere, without people realizing it. In the hands of big tech, it is being used to track our activities. It affected elections and enabled the spread of hate. In the hands of government, it is being deployed in law enforcement without public review. Predictive policing was hyped as an oracle of justice. Instead, it merely deepened systemic racism. Real-time facial recognition is being used across Asia and Europe to enable comprehensive surveillance from which there is no escape. The fog finally lifted, and the view opened up into a beautiful rolling hillside, flanked by a small stream, breathing life into all around it. I had no idea where I was heading, and I was too tired to look in front of my path. An unexpected tumble hurt just my pride, and I pressed on. In 1938, a German Z1 was the first programmable computer ever built. It was capable of 1 cycle per second. In 2019, the Summit supercomputer reached 122 petaflops. That's 122 billion floating point operations per second. In one human lifetime, we've gone from the first computer to computing power almost beyond comprehension. Transhumanist Ray Kurzweil predicted that by 2045, AI will become self-aware. How long before we become machines that need to be fixed and upgraded? How long before Cybermen from Doctor Who go from science fiction to world history? Even before that juncture, what will AI have automated away? Will my son have a job? Will anyone? I could no longer tell whether it was the fog or my anxieties that made it hard to breathe.
How累啊？还有多远？应该3个小时吧，差不多。3个小时。还3个小时？我也累了。再坚持坚持。3个小时，没问题。
Shota explained to me that the clean smell of the mountain came from negative ions. In the environment, negative ions remove allergens from the air that we breathe. In the human body, it helps the production of serotonin, the feel-good hormone. At high altitudes or near bodies of water, negative ions occur naturally in greater concentrations. And that partially explains why being in nature often helps to elevate the mood. All I could think about was how cold and exhausted I was. As I reached camp, I was shivering all over and started to run a fever. Our guides rushed to my aid to help me change out of the sweaty layers now draining my body of heat. I could barely put down some hot tea and soup before retiring to my tent. While I turned and tossed that night, I heard our guides walk around every few hours to shake the snow from our tents.
Now from now it's a bit lighter and I very much hope that it will stop soon. So let's see how it will be tonight, but yeah, I hope we will be fine to walk over the pass.
I'm a naturally competitive person. I felt so embarrassed that I was so physically underprepared for this environment. This is what happens when man loses touch with nature.
It was not an easy night, but everybody survived, so no one is frozen, which is good. So today is a bit better, but we still need to change some plans, which we planned originally because of the snow. And so today we have to do the same, cross this pass, which is 2,780 meters. So the snow on the pass will be much deeper than here, of course. Might be half a meter, even more. So we have to work as a team together with horses and everybody, because it might be quite difficult for the horses, because this pass will be impossible to cross. And also then we have to cross another pass, which will be also impossible to cross. I don't think it will be sunshine.
The climb through the snow challenged my body like nothing before. but I had to prove to myself that I could reach the summit. So, I persevered.
Almost there.
Little by little, the snow melted, and tiny bits of green started to peek through. The beauty of the forest below and the harshness of the mountain above made me think of a famous chapter from the Tao Te Ching. 知人者智，知己者明，胜人者有力，胜己者强。知足者富，强行者有志，不失其所者久，死而不亡者寿。I've never been able to sit still for meditation, but at that moment, I was in a walking trance that must have been somewhere close to a state of Zen. 才发现能活得下来那么开心。没雪真是太舒服的感觉。
它这个地方，我刚才问了一下，它这儿的雪线跟这个中国喜马拉雅那个不太一样，这是3000米的雪线。
3000米就有雪对，好的，怪不得。
今天晚上咱们就到那个公里那儿。
哇，那肯定有地方可以烤火啊！
我那帐篷，我那睡袋都湿了。今天晚上我
睡，其实这2天睡冷死了。我
那防潮架也不好用。
On the way down, I found some wild berries. They tasted incredible, sweeter than anything bought in the store. Refreshed and warmed up, our spirits picked up as we descended. Soon, we started to see signs of human settlement again. That night, we set up camp near another group of nomads.
Yeah. Did you find it hard to trek up there?
Yeah, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, for sure.
Which part was the hardest for you?
I would definitely have to say, I think it was day 3 when we had to make it over the pass to the lake. I learned the literal meaning of dragging my feet as I totally ran out of energy. And then by the time I got to the tent, I was in hypothermia. And it took me a long time to recover.
After all the snow and cold and fog.
Really nice.
Absolutely. We often think of trees as solitary and passive life forms. But biologists have discovered a wood-wide web of mycelium just beneath the Earth's surface. Plants can use this interconnected network of fungi to transport nutrients like carbon, nitrogen, or phosphorus. They can use it to communicate about diseases or parasites to neighbors. They can even use it for sabotage by releasing harmful chemicals into their environment. Sholta told me about how trees can generate energy fields and interact with each other invisible to the human eye. I thought he had finally eaten the wrong type of mushroom, until he took out his phone and showed me some amazing images captured by the Miracam, which is able to show energy fields in action.
Tutti gli esseri viventi emettono campi elettromagnetici. Possiamo considerare l'elettromagnetismo come il linguaggio fondamentale della biologia, Un linguaggio che permette di comunicare effettivamente tra tutti gli esseri viventi e all'interno di ciascun organismo vivente delle informazioni. Questo ci permette ad esempio di raccogliere informazioni da un albero e queste informazioni hanno un effetto su tutto il nostro corpo, su tutti i nostri organi, in una misura che può essere differente da specie a specie.
Però vedi che sta lavorando sul cuore?
Sì.
Perché quel punto lì è un punto bianco. L'albero sembra perdere energia, in realtà cede energia che viene assorbita dal corpo.
Okay, should we continue?
Absolutely. For you.
It was almost like nature had its own natural intelligence. All of these complex systems have achieved a dynamic equilibrium over eons of evolution. But artificial intelligence have had only a few decades. How will it establish a new equilibrium in the world? What would the impact be on human society? Who would be guiding this process? While I still had questions, I wasn't feeling so worried or pessimistic anymore.
最后200米。
今天是在花丛里。
狗狗有救了啊！
你拿棍子过去，害怕。
Oh gosh. Oh, nice, huh? We have a second floor.
Chang, want some sweets?
Oh, sure. What are they?
Cookies from the village.
Ah, nice.
Truck has arrived and the drivers have offered us.
Cool. This is delicious.
Good to have some in the end of the tour.
Yeah. So we're going back to Tbilisi today?
Yeah.
And
it is the last day.
I'm really going to miss looking at those mountains.
Two months later, I went to the UK to meet with Professors Floridi and Bostrom at Oxford University.
How are you? Welcome to the OII. And upstairs. Humanity not only will survive any potential or nightmarish taking over of technology. There is no such thing as a taking over of technology. And therefore, the answer is obviously yes. It will be like saying, are we going to survive our worst nightmares? Yes, we are, because they are nightmares. They're not real. At the same time, there is something important to be stressed. Those nightmares do present some view of a potential world that we might be mistakenly building. But let's not forget, it is up to us, and these are mere fictional worries that we are creating for ourselves.
What is consciousness?
To be conscious, you have to be intelligent, but being intelligent is not enough. The consciousness that we are talking about here is human consciousness. We don't find that anywhere else. So maybe consciousness could be defined, among many other ways, in the following sense. It's the ability to ask questions about oneself. The intelligent animal doesn't ask questions about its own intelligence.
Is AI consciousness? How is it different from the self-awareness of humans?
An artificial intelligence system, as we know it today, is a piece of software that transforms some data into some information which we find useful. I think we should remain realistic about this and understand that, of course, this is amazing. Of course, there will be plenty of tasks that will be taken over by these machines. But we should not be mistaken about the nature of the machines and what's really going on here. In other words, there is no comparison between intelligent, conscious human being and a gadget, a piece of software, a computer, or maybe a neural network that transforms some patterns into some other patterns, and maybe having seen thousands of pictures of a cat will actually recognize that as a cat. Well, that's extraordinary and is testimony to the immense intelligence that has gone into it, but it's human intelligence, and there is no shred of artificial intelligence as per Hollywood definition. When it comes to our self-understanding, trying to understand who are we, who we can become, there have been 4 revolutions. The first one was the Copernican revolution. We thought we were important because we were at the center of the universe, and it was a very comfortable place where to be. But then Copernicus came and put us on a small planet going around a quite smallish sun in a small galaxy in the middle of nowhere. That was disappointing, so we retrenched and decided, well, at least in these circumstances, on this planet, we are at the center of the animal kingdom, the biosphere. Well, then Darwin came and actually displaced us from their centrality as well. It reminded us that we are part of a larger evolution, and there are lots of similarities between us and, say, the apes or other animals. So we retrenched once again. There was a third centrality that we wanted to keep, essentially the centrality within our mental space. And the third revolution was caused by Freud, who told us that well, there are lots of things we are not aware of, that our mind is not like a box within which we can identify exactly what's going on, that a lot of the things that we decide about, we fear, we hope for, have been determined by many things we are not conscious. And so that centrality was also lost. There was one last point that we could still defend. We thought we were at the center of the infosphere, of the space of information. We were the only ones who could play chess, land an aircraft, or buy the cheapest fridge online, that could exchange and manipulate and make money out of the stock exchange. Well, then Turing came, and what we are undergoing now is a fourth revolution. We're not at the center of the infosphere. We are, in fact, part of a larger environment where lots of other agents, mostly artificial, sometimes social, are interacting with us instead of us, better than us. That fourth revolution should really make us reconsider our importance in the universe. We are important not because we are the center, but because we can serve the universe. It's not because the party is ours that we are so crucial and so important, but because we can organize the party for the other, and the other being the world surrounding us. It is important to realize that we are part of a much, much bigger picture, that we are nodes of a wider network, that we are made by all the links that constitute this particular node. In this sense, it would be almost like a roundabout where many roads meet and the roundabout exists because the roads exist. In other words, the individual, me, you, we exist because of all the rest of the universe being there, meeting at this particular point. This point in question has boundless potential and should probably spend some of their potential making sure that all the links, all the relations, the features that make us human are well taken care of. These are extraordinary times, and there is an amazing opportunity in front of us. The opportunity is to go full circle. You know, when you walk and you go round and round and round and round and round, and then you end up in the same place. Maybe it's a walk in a park or in a wood. What's the point? You start from a place, and in the end you get to the same place. Isn't that silly? It's not. That walk, which we can call, for example, technology, science, understanding, something better for us and for the world, is enriching. The fact that we end up, hopefully, having a great connection with the world, with nature, with the environment around us, both human-made and natural, at the end of this long journey, will mean that we'll have been successful in greeting the world, in getting in touch with the world. So hopefully we will be back exactly where we started, but with the extra wonderful, enriching experience of knowing that we can be a community, we can cooperate with each other, we can be in synergy with the world around us. If we want to save the future for humanity and save this planet, that is the walk we need to take. We need to start now, but we need to end exactly where we started, part of nature, for nature.
Next, I went to Professor Bostrom. Given the name of the institute, I was also curious about his view on the future of humanity. We started by discussing our relationship with nature.
I think we have this tendency to romanticize nature or to view nature through the lens of human experience. So we think forests are beautiful and wondrous places because all the different species and the tightly woven ecosystem. But I think there's a different perspective that we should also bear in mind, which is nature seen through the lens of the people who live there and the animals that live there. So a lot of animals that actually inhabit nature might see nature as this horrible place of scarcity, where it's cold and where there is insufficient food and where there are dangers lurking everywhere. I think that the cognitive capacities that the average human has today are higher than at any point in the past. It is true that at the moment there is maybe selection in some ways going in the opposite direction, in that it has at least been the case for a number of decades now that say more educated people have fewer children on average. So it's not the only way that things can change. Things can also change, for example, by somebody having a plan of where they want to go and then implementing changes to get to that outcome, intelligent design. So when we humans are building some technological system, a lot of what goes into that is this intelligent design where we have some plans, some objective, and then work to make it happen. So it's possible that although there will be a lot of change in the future, it will not be evolutionary change, but instead change brought about as the result either of intelligent design or of the various unintended consequences of our efforts to design things and achieve various goals. And I think that the upshot of all of that is that the human condition as we know it might be transformed into some other condition. Either we could go extinct, we might become post-human, there might be a world dominated by artificial superintelligence.
As he spoke, I couldn't help but imagine each one of our brains as a tiny light bulb, all drooping from the Christmas tree.
Consciousness might predominantly be instantiated inside computers in the future with greater efficiency. Either by, say, uploading human minds, by scanning particular brains and then implementing the same computational structure in a computer, and also maybe by creating de novo new kinds of minds, but digital minds, that can then either interact with physical reality using some kind of robots or maybe for the most part rather living in virtual realities. At the moment, still, the notion of superintelligence is most people really sort of science fiction-y. Like, it's a kind of thing that doesn't feel quite real, and I think it's going to start feeling more real to more people, and that's going to draw more focus on that.
Far from settling the question, the two professors gave strongly opposite views from each other. So my search for answers continued. I haven't been back to Beijing in more than a decade, so I was really looking forward to seeing some very different perspectives.
There was a dude that used to live, they called him Laozi. He had his views that he followed called the philosophy. This man was gotta aim. Mrs. Scrella was a look he bought a earn.
欢迎欢迎，
谢谢，幸会幸会。
人工智能会对人类会有什么影响？佘常，我觉得你这个问题呢特别的有意义。通常大家会理解说人工智能会带来很多对人类工作的颠覆，或者甚至对人类这个智能对人类社会的颠覆。但是呢，人们往往忽略了一点，就是人工智能呢，它可能会带来人类经济发展、社会繁荣的更大的好处。我可以举一个数字来说明这个问题。有一份统计报告呢，大概预测说，在2030年，因为人工智能带来的这个 GDP 的这个产值的增长会达到15万亿美元。这是一个什么概念呢？它大约相当于这个西方国家的GDP 总和的2倍，也就是说，人工智能会使得人类经济会翻倍。而西方文化呢，它是一个技术导向或者技术中心的一个理论。那么他认为说，人类社会呢，因为技术的进步，人类社会就是在不断的进步。如果我们更多的也可以在向东方文化去学习说，我们不要太在意说是不是人类进步，人类的这个社会一定要进步，是不是人类社会一定要跟以往这个有很大的这个不同？我指的是在这个技术层面，实际上技术层面某种程度也是物质的层面。我们如果更多能够回归内心，回归人的这个精神，那么我们也可以发现说，人类也可以非常平安的、非常的这个充实的、安静的，在这个跟社会、跟自然、跟人与人 等等几个关系的这几个最重要的关系的这种和谐共存当中，可以很好的得以这个存续和发展。
王院长，我有很多问题想请教您。第一个就是您对人工智能是怎么理解的？
社长，我就特别高兴能见到你，因为很多年以前，我已经开始思考你现在思考的问题。我跟你也同样的担心，到底人工智能对人类和人类社会意味着什么？我妈妈是在银行工作，做一名会计。你知道的，每一年的年底要做年结。在我很小的时候，年结是用算盘，由200多人打出来的。我曾经有一次去接我妈妈，我听到了100-200人在一个大厅里面打算盘的声音，给我留下了非常深刻的印象。终于有一天，我妈妈很早就回来了，5-6点钟就下班了。我问我妈妈说：“你今天为什么回来这么早？”她说：“都是因为 IBM 的计算机。我们现在用计算机来做年结了。当时我在 IBM 工作，我特别骄傲。但是这个时候，我也产生了一个担心。我问我妈，我说你确定计算机算的是对的吗？”我妈说：“不用担心，我们有手工账。今天虽然结完了，但是接下来我们会用1-2个星期的时间，再用算盘是计算器，把整个的再打一遍，确保计算机算的是对的。”我放心了。然而5年以后，当我再问我妈，我说还有手工账吗？我妈说没有了。我说为什么？她说我们相信计算机算的是对的。在那一刹那，我就开始担心，人类是不是已经把一部分的控制真的交给了一个机器系统。我在 IBM 工作，我知道计算机的程序里面可能有差错，叫 bug。社长，我觉得我还是算一个乐观主义者，不能说是一个悲观主义者因为其实如果我们回顾人类的发展历史，人类曾经面对过几次重大的这样的变革最近的一次，比如说工业文明，那么当时的这个火车就曾经让很多的偏远地方的部落感觉非常的紧张，他们甚至誓死捍卫他们的领地，而不让火车开进来。然而火车是一定会开进来的。在火车开进去以后，是很多的文化发生了改变，但人类并没有因此而变得更加不好。
With a few days to myself, I decided to go visit a friend in Heilongjiang, the northeastern tip of China. I saw construction everywhere along the way, and workers erecting new buildings at breakneck pace. It was clear that the train I was riding wasn't the only high-speed marvel in China. I've always wanted to see the Winter Festival in Harbin. As I walked through the Harbin Ice Festival, I was amazed by all the wonderful sculptures.
需要请个导游吗？讲解员。还可以了。
I was equally dismayed by more selfie sticks than people actually enjoying the moment. Since the first iPhone, smartphones have completely changed our way of life. AI is going to have an even bigger impact on the world. Will we all just quietly pass by? Too distracted to protect our own future? As I walked through the ICE Orthodox churches, I thought I would take this opportunity to ask what ordinary folks thought about AI.
Rong智能我不知道是什么。
人工智能？我以为摄像就是人工智能吧。
我知道人工智能。在我印象中，人工智能大概就是由人类工程师制造出来的能够进行高等复杂运算的机器吧。虽然这是在农村，但还是有网络，可以通过网络来看一些网上新闻啊。
I was happy to see that China's rapid rise did not leave this remote village behind. And it seemed like people still live very peaceful and content lives.
“我知道人工智能就是人类发明出来的高科技电子产品。
什么叫人工智能啊？我也不知道啊。我就知道打麻将。
These villagers seem pretty optimistic about AI. Well, at least they didn't seem very worried. I went to interview an expert on Taoism. What could be more interesting than getting the most non-technical take on this most technical subject?
We praise Tupac Kai, he will hear our cry, bring peace to this place. Just follow Taoist ways. It's not a necessity. Who's up the government can have the audacity capacity. The tragedy, think we're slaves to their depravity. No need for their perplexity. All the easy simplicity of what we could be, and in time you'll see. Secret your life is your felicity. No more oppressors. No more aggressors. Unite together in every endeavor. No more oppressors.
谢谢。道教的角度来说，您是怎么看待人工智能这项科技的出现和兴起呢？
这个人工智能，那么我认为它是人类发明的，人类制造的。那么从这个意义上讲，它想超出人类的控制是非常难的啊。但问题是，这种高智能，掌握在什么人的手里？中国人最慎重的是财大没有德。所以中国传统上是最理想的德才的关系叫德才兼备。这些人，他又有才能做大事，他又有德，绝对能做正事，他不做坏事。所以中国历史上把道德放在第一位，把才放在第二位，叫德才兼备，而不是才德兼备。就是没有德的人，绝不能让他掌握聪明。那就每产生一个新的事物，真正的那种大德之人，他首先考虑的是将来是利还是弊。现在的人不考虑这个问题，发明的人也不考虑这个问题，用的人更不考虑这个问题，都在以利益为标准，而是不以利弊为标准。所以这就是目前的这个可怕，这个社会上整个我们人类整个全球最可怕的一个问题，尤其是那些大的政治家，那些国家，那些非常强大的那些富裕的那些国家，他更把你别看他说是文明，啊，你看好像这个国家越富裕，物质文明各方面都文明，但是他们的思想恰恰就是完全站在这个利益的这个欲望的角度上，你叫他离开了这个欲望，啊。这种物质，这种欲望，他生活不了的，啊，他怎么说怎么都有理，但是那种理，只是你说而已，你是违背天理的。所以道家第一重视的是修身。修身是什么？就是把自己内在的东西修明白，内里明了，你看外界一切都是明的，我们都叫做物尽空明嘛。那你首先你内在明了，你看外边整个世界都是明亮的，它就没有阴暗，那你也就不会做出阴暗的事来。
孟队长，我得走了，我想问一下，最后您还有什么建议给我吗？
你是人工智能方面的精英，我还真有建议给你。我认为目前人工智能发展到今天，再往高处发展不是最重要的了。最重要的，我认为是它的可控性，你们要研究怎么牢牢的控制它。
谢谢，我会认真思考的。
其实吧，我认为你不必要太焦虑。 这个道家思想是个自然思想，他认为道法自然啊。那么人类的一切活动，它都叫人为。那么天地自然的运化，这才是最重要的。人类一切人为，它超脱不了天地这个大造化。
谢谢。
好。
I am not a religious person. I am not a mystic. But I had to admit, the Taoist words made me think. At the end of the day, AI is created by humans. And humans are still very insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe. The key, he said, was who controlled AI. So is AI just another technological invention, like the car, the airplane, or the computer? Perhaps we've all been so anxious about the technology itself when we should have been more worried about whose hands we put this technology in. It's ironic that while Chinese netizens increasingly live exclusively within a walled garden, they're also more plugged in than ever before. AI is becoming better and better, not just in the online world, but also at connecting the virtual with the physical. Even as the world economy has become incredibly intertwined, we're becoming more and more isolated from each other.
We are arriving at Luciano Station.
Remember, freedom is the right of all sentient beings.
Professor Floridi said I had to circle back to the same place I started. So I decided to visit the real source of all of our worries about AI, Hollywood.
I feel like
You know, they're gonna take over the world, and it's not gonna leave any room for us humans. You know, like with the technology-wise, like we may not have a job. Like some people may not have a job. We'll just be able to click a little button or whatever. That's my opinion.
And then again, with my opinion, it's like a 50-50 with me. For one, I believe it's gonna take away like jobs for us, and then again, it's kind of helping us out because nowadays the newer generation, that's all they're gonna know is like robots. They're getting technology at what, the age of 2 now? I have a little sister, she already not open the phone at the age of 3. So I think it's like a bad impact, but it's not. It's gonna hurt us physically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. What they said.
Okay. AI for me, I feel like it has a lot of good properties. I feel like it can be used for a lot of good things, but I feel like there's always like that fear of it being like sentient and being self-aware, that it can start like self-replicating and creating more of itself, which is kind of scary because like I watch a lot of movies and like Terminator, and I don't want the world to end. You know?
I'm scared. No, I'm actually excited to see what new things will come from it.
Well, I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I think there's enough things in the world to be afraid of without adding new ones. You know?
Once I returned home, I finally had a chance to talk with Professor Jerry Kaplan. With decades of experience in technology, entrepreneurship, and artificial intelligence, I was very eager to hear his point of view.
Pleasure. Thanks. My pleasure.
The AI seems to be developing very rapidly, at least from what you hear in the media. Why should I care, and how much should I care, and what really should I care about?
Well, it's helpful to understand, first of all, what's actually happening in the field of AI. It looks like it's advancing rapidly, but that's not quite what's happening. What's really happening is there's been an area of breakthrough, probably about 10 or 15 years ago, around a field that is called machine learning. So let me be a little bit more specific. You can take the digital information that's, say, streaming from a camera or appears in a picture, and or is coming from a microphone, and you can now extract out of that information that you previously couldn't get. So previously machines were blind and they couldn't hear, but now because of this new technology, we can equip them with what we think of as sensory perception.
Welcome. It is a pleasure to meet you. I like your pink scrunchie. Or is it a bow? Oh, it's very nice.
So the perception for the general public is that the field is making rapid progress. But what's really happening is there's a new tool, and that tool is being applied to lots and lots of different areas. That might be speech recognition. That might be self-driving cars. That might be interpreting X-rays to look at whether or not you have cancerous growth, for example.
Excellent.
It's going to impact a lot of areas of our life, but really, qualitatively, it'll be similar to what happened in the past with the computer revolution. If you think about things like how has your smartphone affected your life, well, it's really affected all kinds of aspects of your life, many, many different ways. And so this new technology is probably going to have an impact that will be analogous to like that of the internet or of smartphones. And so it's going to have a broad impact. But the truth is, as a consumer, you don't need to know about the technology. You don't have to worry about the technology. You'll just find that, oh, I didn't know a computer could do that. So the question is, what does that mean for people's jobs? Well, like every previous wave of automation, it does replace people in certain kinds of jobs. But more accurately, it allows us to automate certain kinds of tasks. So many things that required people to do previously, now we'll be able to do either with the assistance of a machine, or it can be done completely by the machine itself. And that might sound scary. It's like, my God, it's going to take away all our jobs. But you just have to look back in history to realize that this constant change in the labor force and the skills that we need and the ways in which we make a living always evolve. And it evolves in response to our ability to automate those tasks.
You talking about artificial intelligence? Sure, yeah. Would it worry me? Not so far. But then again, you never know, right? I mean, it's basically once it becomes self-aware, that's when I'm going to be worried about it. Right now, I'm okay. It's just enough if I can program my phone, you know? Forget that. But artificial intelligence, who knows? One of these days, maybe they'll have my job. That's when I'm going to get upset.
Jerry, a follow-up question. For the people who are in the industries that will be displaced, what can we do as a society to help them out? Or what can they do themselves today to help themselves out?
Well, the main thing we can do is to make sure that we're teaching people the skills that will be valued by employers in the future. And that is certainly going to shift, in part due to artificial intelligence. But let me provide a little bit of comfort on this. The image in the public is that the robots are coming and they're going to take my job. Well, for most jobs, we can't build a robot that does that person's job. But what kinds of jobs are we not going to automate? Jobs that involve a lot of personal interaction or face-to-face contact. Nobody wants to go to a bar after work and tell all their troubles to an electronic bartender. They want to have a human being to serve them. So I think it will make the provision of personal service and jobs that involve persuasion, or the expression of empathy or other forms of human emotion, it'll make those jobs more valuable. And the jobs of the future will go to the people who have good social skills, who can be good salespeople, or who can be a good tour guide of some kind, or otherwise provide advice on a person-to-person basis. And so that's where we need to put more time and effort into making sure that we're not training people to operate machines for which we're going to build machines to do those jobs. What we need to do is to train them to have better social skills and to be able to interact in the kinds of human professions that are going to dominate in the future.
Walking amongst the giant redwoods of the Californian coast, I thought about my journey from Silicon Valley to the Caucasus, from Europe to China. We cannot develop AI from a place of greed or try to stop it out of fear. Instead, we need to take inspiration from nature and always hold a strong sense of empathy. Because AI is going to impact each and every human being, so everyone deserves to stand and be recognized. The planet belongs to our children. The only question is, what kind of world will we leave them?
Last day of the